And I mean, I could show you that. I have footage of a boat called the Southern Cross. And it goes into the event. And the event starts here. And the boat goes into it and goes, up and up and up and away. But the event is back here. It's closer to you. And it's going at that angle. That's why you can see it at that angle. That's why when you get up, it changes. That's why you get down, it changes. So just look and see how it's all wavy and, all this kind of stuff, right? My biggest takeaway that I want you to have is that every single time when you're looking across the ocean, the limitation of the water is always atmospheric, is always the result of the atmospheric conditions in that area. So that if we were to take away this background and all you would have is, well, actually, let's see if we can do that. Paul usually comes over here, right? So, So right here, okay? So right here, you have the top of the island. Here's the top of the island. This is where the event starts. Everything right here is now distance. This is all distance, 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 distance. This is probably where I would put the shoreline. I'm just saying. Because you have all of these inversions, right? Inversions, inversions, inversions right here, and then boom. Like, here's the sky, and here's the water. Let me ask you a question. Is the sky really touching the water at that point? Right? Is that where they're coming together? Do they touch? Or do you just think that that's the way optics looks? Right? Right? Because if you come over here, the sky is now blocked, or the sky is not, like, here's sky. Is this the sky? Okay. Right here, see where my cursor is? This is not sky. But you know what sailors were thinking when they looked out on the ocean and saw shit like this? They thought that this was the physical limitation of the water because that's where it stops. But it's visibly in this position because this is a mirage of the sky above. How do you know that, Travel? Because we have this island right here that is here's the elevation of this island, and then at some point we know the island touches the water. Where is that happening? It's happening within the space of the obstruction. If this were a completely different video that we were looking at, and this event was not happening, you would see this water going all the way to the island at this point right here, and you would not be able to see with any distinction, just like this. Like this, you can't tell me what's happening right there. Just like at this point, what I want to point out to you right now is that you can see by contrast here, right? Here is the island, right? Is this right now that what you're looking at, is that physical? Is that the physical island? At what point does it stop and the physical island resume its reality? So right here, I'm going to say is, the physical. This is the reason why I don't see any more of the mountain is because the mountain doesn't get any taller. But as you go down into the event, which starts right about here, the physical stops. Like this is no longer physical. This is all distance until this point at this particular angle. So if this were taken away and all you had was the sky and the water coming together, and you thought that the reason why you couldn't see any more water is because that's where the earth was curving down, obviously, because why don't I see more water? I'll tell you why. The reason why you don't see more water is because the event is obstructing the distance behind it until something that is higher than the event, which is why we see the top of the island right here. But I think that hopefully this was informative enough for you to chew on. Again, please give me feedback. Again, to reiterate, there is only one cause for the appearance of the horizon every single time. Regardless of whether or not your visibility is obstructed with or without mirage, the only cause is always the condition of the medium. When you see the horizon, you can't see more of it because the conditions of the medium will not let you. That's why you can't see that far. And sometimes that obstruction comes in the form of a mirage, which is a completely different appearance of things. And sometimes when there's no mirage, everything just goes into the distance and just gets compressed to Shinola. But every single time, that point in the distance is never physical limitation. That's never physically where it's limited. The visible limitation of the surface of the earth is never due to physical limitation of the earth itself. Let me say this again. The visible limitation of the surface of the earth, whether aquatic or terrestrial, is never the result of the limitation of the physical earth in that distance. Because the earth is always there to get measured, always there to get measured into the distance. The limitation of your visibility of the earth, whether it's terrestrial or aquatic, is always optically due to the conditions of the medium through which you are looking, which medium is affectionately known as the ether band. Everybody drink.